Welcome to your daily dose of this amazing podcast, You Can Handle the Truth. Today, we are going to be speaking about where to start. So, where to start? It's knowing where to start. Does anyone know where to start? Well, there is a blank piece of paper, and you have no clue what words to put on that paper. These words were from Baron David Wood. So, what do you do? How you get those words? How do you get that knowledge? How do you start from point zero? Is this the problem we are having? Is it really? How do you bridge that gap? It isn't going to fall out of the sky, and there is no USB stick to download into your head. This is not the Hollywood Matrix film. So, what do you do? Where do you get this knowledge from? What words do you use? What legal process and procedure is cast iron and bulletproof? How do you find out? There is no college course for you to attend with a teacher at the front with a blackboard. So how do you get from point zero? Well, let's start with the affidavit. So you know the facts. And if you don't know the facts, you cannot do anything. The affidavit is in layman's terms, as Baron David used to say. The affidavit is in layman's terms, guys. But that's where the layman's terms end. After that, you are in the world of legalese, hard and fast. The rock and the hard place. This is not kindergarten or play school. This is the scum of the scum you are going hard up against. So make sure to get it right. You are not a child at play school anymore, and there is no one who's going to spoon feed you. You have to read until your eyes bleed, and there are no shortcuts. Well, welcome to the world. Now, is that a big enough kick in the Haas speech for you? Well, this speech was given by Baron David. You are not in the dark anymore. Everything out there that walks will kill you and eat your eyes for juju beans. This is the real world. All the right language are in the very real files in the groups. You have links in YouTube and in Baron David Wood's website. You have Telegram groups. You can find all of them if you really want to. Baron David Wood used to say, use the facts. No one has agreed to what the rules are. No rules, no laws, no acts and statutes, just facts. He would say, oh my God, how do you get this across? It's like trying to decode sand. It's like some kind of sexual fetish of psychopathic proportions. Their own system. Who said it was their system? Use their system against them. Well, if you use their system against them, it would have to be in their courts. Hell heffing no. Trusts and standing. What the heffing? It's like people can't speak and never mind think without failing into the subliminal programmed jibber jabber. Bill and Ben Flower Pot Men, the flubber dubber weed jibber jabber. Maxims are facts. That's what maxims are. Case law. Well, I put 800 years of their case law in the bin on the 20th 9th May of 2013. Just try reading the effing files. Is that really too hard to do? Stop guessing that you have the first clue, because you can't string 6 words together without effing it up. Now, how hard is it just to read? They no longer have a system. I gutted it out of them. So Baron David Wood had a very peculiar view of things. He would look at all this scenario and dismantle it with the amount of knowledge he acquired. So let's talk about an affidavit, shall we? Again, because repetition is key, and this channel is all about that, is the repetition. An affidavit is one of the most powerful legal documents there is. Okay, no argument there, I hope. So this is why lawyers don't want you to use an affidavit. Have you ever asked that question? An affidavit is a legal tool by which the facts are established. It is, like Baron used to say, this is the way it is, monkey boy. So prove me wrong if you can, and if you can't, then you have agreed to the content of the affidavit by default. And you only have 28 days to prove me wrong. So after that, the clock starts ticking, you see. Once the 28 days have expired, there is a formal agreement between the parties as to what the facts are. This is why the affidavit is a most powerful weapon. There is a legal and binding agreement between the parties that can no longer be disputed. There can't be any further arguments after the 28 days. An unrebutted affidavit, it is a formal contract. So if you serve that affidavit to the 657 MPs in the so-called government by email, whatever the numbers in your country, who have access to the best lawyers, barristers, and judges on the planet, and it remains unrebutted after the 28 days. Then you have the most powerful affidavit of all time that kicks the Magna Carta and all of that jibber that flows around. So this 65-page affidavit can be used by anybody at all because it is published. So the 8 billion people can use this 65 affidavit in any country because the same condition is the same in every country. There is a claim of a government. So the 65-page affidavit can be used by anybody in any country as the foundation of a securitized commercial lien in any country. Now, that's the true power of an affidavit. And the pen. Well, these days it might be not the pen, but your fingers. And of course, the email. So in Exhibit C, in the affidavit, that covers the fact that the state is a company no different to McDonald's and that the judiciary is a sub-office. So the judge is not a judge and he has no authority because he's the company janitor. Now, that's a powerful affidavit. The executive office has formally agreed that they are a company no different to McDonald's, with a company janitor for a judge, with no authority. Let that fact sink in for a while, shall we? Just think about that. You will keep reading the same wording over and over again because that's how we learn. That's how we will reset that machine of ours that we call the brain. All you need to do is read, sleep, and then read some more until your eyeballs could not read anymore. The same will go for everyone who decides to take this journey. Ladies and gentlemen, there's no shortcuts, no template. You have to grow up and do the research and the unlearning. Then you will be ready to learn what Baron David Ward is talking about. If you have your cup half full or full, then take a minute to empty that cup. That's paramount, you see. The question is paramount. Let's start to empty that cup of yours then. Go ahead, take your time. Do a mental examination of how full or half full your cup is. And yeah, just empty that. Now, let's make another amazing question. How many people have the power of attorney at law in this or any country? The answer may surprise you. The only reason you don't know you are an attorney at law is because nobody ever told you. Now, why would anybody not want you to know you are an attorney at law? Let's see. How could this piece of information be of an advantage to somebody else? Well, if you don't know something and somebody else does, then they have an advantage over you, because knowledge is power, right? So the pen is mightier than the sword, and it is the brain that drives the pen. So keeping you in the dark like a mushroom is advantageous to others, and they can capitalize on this fact. And let me tell you, they do. So how would you know that you are an attorney at law? Well, it's quite simple. Let's see. Attorney is derived from the verb attorn, meaning generally to turn over to another person, to delegate, to transfer, with the object of the verb being anything from real property or a contractual obligation to intangible items, such as one's allegiance to a country or ruler, and an important point in feudal law. Where can you find this? You can find this in Etymology Online. So if you do a quick research on Merriam-Webster dictionary of attorney at law, it comes with this definition: a practitioner in a court of law who is legally qualified to prosecute and defend actions in such court on the retainer of clients. Attorney at law comes from the English where some attorneys practice at the common law courts, hence Attorney at Law by John Winner, JD. So it is not possible to give somebody something you do not have. So is that not just a cool piece of common sense reasoning, or what? We are all attorneys at law. And how do I know this? Well, because I never pass my power of attorney to anyone. So no further evidence is required. The affidavit stands on the record, has done since 2013, unrebutted. Who has or had the authority to create contract law? There is no contract law in fact, just a bunch of unauthorized illegal company boys making it up as they go along. The flesh and bone man has nothing the government can take. Can a man own land? Does he have a bill of exchange with God? There is no such thing as law, and David Ward showed us purely for the fact that none of the people have agreed as to what the law is. You will recall from Exhibit A that law is merely a presumption. 12 presumptions, any of which can be defeated by a single challenge. We don't altogether give a shit about the Companies Act or any act at all, as all acts ever passed have done so with the necessary legal obligations being fulfilled. The securing of the signed formal legal agreements to be governed, thus legally transferring power of attorney to be represented by a government. Now, let's go further. If it's not signed by an embodied hand, that's fraud in their company policy, the contract law. Here I am again with my two fingers pointing in the air. Baron David merely pointed out this anomaly to procedure as it creates the ability to execute the fraud they commit. When they send you a letter through the mail, either a fine or a PCN, you have to ask, which obligation did you fail? There is none, my friends. The fine is not a fine. It's more than likely FPN or a PCN, both of which are notices. We have noted that your correspondence is a notice of a fine parking charge notice and not a fine parking charge. Ms. Fraudster, therefore, carries the formal noted obligation to present the material evidence of a fine for which Ms. David Ward is legally liable, duly signed by an official with the legal authority to issue a fine. Present them with the affidavit as it is. It will remove all wind in their sails, all wind in their sails. Wine, yeah, why does my mind always go to wine? Because probably these people are all drinking. Well, it will remove all wind in their sails. So this becomes the end, okay? You see, it doesn't matter what language it is all fraud. There is no contract with a birth certificate, and despite the trust set up in each of our names, we were never party to it, so any claim to the trust is or would be fraudulent. That doesn't mean that there is no redress. You just have to firstly realize that you all have the authority of the Attorney General. Then you identify the claims, the claimant, and you charge them with fraud. You see, I use the word charge them with fraud. It's really not that complicated once you've read a fair few cases. There has never been a claim made by the corporation to own the name. It never happened. That's free man on the land bullshit, guys. They never claimed that. You won't find a case where they go into a courtroom and they say, excuse me, Your Honor, as you can see, I have here the birth certificate. So I have the authority to make this or that, because no, it never happened. The claim that it does happen every day when you turn your telly, if you still have it, is we govern by consent. That's it. That's it. Every time they go on the telly and they show up with president, MP, governor, official, blah, blah, blah. That's the claim. That's your claim right there. And they don't have it. Hence, all the groups and books and baronesses involved in sharing the facts far and wide, the ones that truly understand the concept of the affidavit, the ones that truly know that this is the most important document you will ever read, because this breaks everything down. I would say to a molecular structure, but again, let's see. So, divine sovereign decree. Really? Divine sovereign decree? What another load of shit and time wasting. Notarized, you say? Oh, come on. There's nobody with the legal authority to notarize anything. Anything. Okay? Again, you are the highest authority. Your great seal and crest are the highest authority. My good friend Steve, oh my God. Why is it Steve thinking of me? No, it's not Steve, but Scott would say many times, and you can hear him in the videos on this channel, that actions, words, and deeds, those are the three most powerful friends you will ever have. The entire system is fraudulent and therefore illegal. Notaries, public, are part of that system. Put them back in the bin and think about your actions, words, and deeds. I cannot believe how hard it has been to educate people in regards to their own power and authority. It seems that they don't want to listen, they don't want to see it. They still tremble and fear their own power. We are dealing with fiction, a state, company. But it seems like people don't get this. They don't get it. That there is this men and women playing a role. And when you know the truth and you start asking the questions, like for instance, there is a claim at the council. Okay, let me stop you right there. Who's the man or woman in the council making that claim? Oh, no, it's the council. No, again, a bunch of bricks cannot make claims. How can a bunch of bricks make claims? Only a man or a woman can make a claim. And that man or a woman must have some sort of proof, evidence to back that claim up, you see. Let's move along. Let's look at the clever motion, okay? There is a very clever motion, for lack of a better word, that you will see in David's Your Hours affidavit that many seem to miss. And here is the motion. For and on behalf of the principal legal embodiment by the title of Mr. David Ward. For and on behalf of the Attorney General, the Attorney General of the House of Ward. For and on behalf of Baron David of the House of Ward. So, why am I bringing this? It's not new. You will find this if you dig far enough. There is a lot of posts about this on Facebook, and you will see that. Why am I saying this? We have three strikes here: for and on behalf of. For and on behalf means for something or someone. So the principle, the legal embodiment, by the title of Mr. David Ward, means the highest it can be, the principle. So Mr. David Ward. This means any other Mr. David with lower and capital letters is within this category, and it is a servant in title. The Attorney General of the House of Ward. Note, if you look at the document, you will note that the capitals is the highest of the high in the state and law and ministerial terms of that house and categories. So, as above, is a servant in title. The Baron David of the House of Ward is a natural-born title. Has a natural-born baron from Adam, has no masters. He is the highest he can be in title. Each three of these are for and on behalf of each other. 3 strikes, and yet it is from the House of Ward. Somebody must have written these words. It can only be a man that wrote these words. An affidavit of truth brings the living woman or man into any court should they wish to pursue it. But who would want to persist with this House of Words or your house? You may ask, is this why there is no resistance? Is this why they decide to ignore you? Well, I would say no, as the affidavit of truth administers the justice, the jurisdiction. The titles are self-evidence of the man who holds the ability with those titles, with honor, the crest and seal, in any particular court, the paperwork. So they had their opportunity to rebut the highest administration they have ever seen and failed. They cannot bring in the men to their offices because the affidavit of truth is the jurisdiction. So my house honors your house. You've seen me many times say that we are a new generation of barons and baronesses. I would say that we are the first of its kind. We have all this internet and all this type of apparatus that we can use. So I would say that. And when you realize your house, when you realize the power of your house, their house becomes that of servitude because they have none. So I would tell you what is a real baron, baroness by natural descent. A barrow man is not a slave. A barrow man has no master. A baron by natural descent is the highest status you can be. Know thyself first. What is a baron? Being a baron has nothing to do with a title. A baron is of value. A baron heart knows only virtue. A baron defends the helpless. A baron's might uphold the weak. A baron's words speak only truth. A baron's wrath undoes the wicked. So are you a baron? When will you become that which you are? What is it that makes a baron a baron? Is there a difference between an hereditary title baron and a real baron by natural descent? Is there any subversion where a title baron is less in status to a real baron? What is a title baron and where do we look for clues? It is correct to observe that he who gives an oath is in service of that oath. Otherwise, there would be no point in taking that oath. There are many oaths. One would be a sworn oath of allegiance, an oath of service, military. Some US citizens swear an oath of allegiance to a flag. This oath puts them in a service to the flag. Wow. And the Constitution, they never signed that. And it was signed by a load of dead guys. But still, they go on and play this type of roles. So it is not possible for a servant to create laws. So HM courts and tribunal services, or any other for that matter, clearly are not a place of law and justice, but a company that provides a service. Clearly, we need a clear definition as to what a baron is and what a baron is not. That took Baron David Wall 3 solid months of work. A bit easier for me because he left all the clues behind and it was still hard earned. Google these days doesn't make it easier as well. I wonder why. I was able to track the etymology of the word through 6 or 7 languages and back to Latin before I found the definitive answer as to what a baron is not. I think I was able to understand quite well the word baron because me being Portuguese and Portuguese being my first language, there are still words that we have in Portuguese that are very Latin related. So we use a very common ancient word for the firstborn son. And so if you go and do this research, you can see that a baron most commonly refers to the title of nobility. The name baron in Old English also refers to a wealthy male landowner. In Hebrew, the Israeli surname Bar-on is usually contracted to baron. It means son of strength, vigor, and potency. In Lebanon and Syria, Reich is an obscure aristocratic title from the coastlines of Lebanon and Syria that is roughly equivalent to a baron. The word itself can be translated as commodore and is found only among a few of the former merchant aristocrats' houses of the former Mount Lebanon Emirate. The only legitimate holders of this title are those that trace their lineage back to the vessels of Fakhr al-Din II that arrived from Italy via the alliance with the Medici. A baron in English, the origin and story, comes from the Old French baron, medieval Latin baro, baronmen, not to be confused with the classical baro, baronman, simpleton, used in early Germanic law in the sense of homo, especially men, servant, follower, warrior, also as baros. It is presumably of Frankish origin from a Germanic word meaning servant, man, warrior, possibly cognate with Old English Bjorn, perhaps originally Barrow, carrier. A Celtic origin has also been suggested due to, the occurrence of a Latin baronish, meaning service, militium, as early as the 1st century. So you can see that if you go and do research on that word, many things will appear, and you will be with this major question, so what the flying F is a barrow man, right? So a barrow man is not in service. A barrow man is not a paid servant to another. A barrow man is not indentured to another by agreement, an apprentice. A barrow man is not in service by way of an oath, a monarch. A barrow man is not a slave. A barrow man has no master. This is why the barons of 1215 did not lose their heads for treason. So I have to ask you, who is your master? Because a slave knows his master's name. Clearly, there is some subversion at what the 77.6 million people of this land have no clue as to what they are. A baron would not say that somebody ought to do something about that. A baron would sort it out himself. A baron has no master. A baron cannot rebel, as there is no master for a baron to rebel against. There is no such thing as lawful rebellion, because only slaves can rebel. If you go into Black's law, which also defines baron as a free man and husband. So again, what is a baron? A lord or a nobleman, the most general title of nobility in England. A particular degree or title of nobility next to a viscount. A judge of the court of exchequer. I don't know how to pronounce that. A free man, also a vassal, holding directly from the king, a husband, occurring in this sense the phrase baron et femme, husband and wife. But here is where we need to be very careful and see the play in the words. Let's look at this late motion. The most general type of nobility in England. Title, 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 title. Did you get that? Did you listen that word title? Do you completely not see the word title? So what does that word title mean, right? So a baron, a baroness, a baronet, all French words. Parliament is a French word. Until you fully understand the meaning of words, you will stay dumb forever. A barrowman is not endured to another by agreement. Apprentice, a company employee, itself indenture, a company employee title. It's all words. It's all spells. Oh, hell yes. It's all bollocks, my friends. But if you are going to take on the scumbags, then you need to know and use the right words. If you can't use the right words in the correct context, then don't even bother and go back to bed. Go back and getting screwed in a house forever. You have to make a choice now. Okay? That choice It has to be coming from within you. Now, I've been using Black's Law. Black's Law. Well, what's Black's Law? Let's see. It's a book written by some guy where they change the meaning of the words at every edition that they go along and hide it in a law dictionary that no one will ever, ever, ever read. Now that's planned and executed criminal fraud by some guy that shits down the pan, same as you do. He puts down his pants down and his underwear. He sits down and he just, you see? Well, Baron David Ward used to say, I don't make claims. That is exactly what it is. You are a baron because you was born and you lived and breathe. You are above royalty. A monarch gives an oath. That oath makes the monarch a servant. This is why the barons in 1215 did not lose their heads for high treason. Are you not seeing the subversion of language? Do I have to explain this 1,000 different ways? English is a construct language for that function, created because they could not screw up the Latin. So this is very true, because if you know other languages and if you know how to speak in another language, you will see that English is so easy, so goddamn easy, right? Everyone can learn English, but do they? What are they learning in reality? What kind of spells are we all talking about? Because we all speak this marvelous language, don't we? Well, now let's look at the very word title. If you go to the Cambridge dictionary online, it comes up with title, noun, a word that is used before someone's name, stating their social rank, qualifications, positions in an organization, sex, etc. What's her title? Is she professor or doctor? We will retain the honorary title of non-executive chairman. What's your job title now? Are you managing director? Title, noun, legal right. So the legal right to own a piece of land or a building or a document that proves this right. If you wish to sell the property, you will first have to prove your title to it. In law and property, the legal right to own a building or a piece of land hold the title. He did not have the title and therefore could not transfer the property to anyone else. Who holds the title to the property? Well, thank me now that I know that the words and definitions written by these criminals vary according to their needs, so we can't completely ascertain what the word title really means without going to the etymology of the words. So Google gives us this origin. Old English, titul, reinforced by the Old French title, both from Latin titulus, inscription, title. The word originally denoted a placard or inscription placed on an object. giving information about it, hence a descriptive heading in a book or another composition. In the etymology, you can read that the title, it's an inscription heading from Old French title, yeah, the same thing, on and on and on, and a ticket, a placard, a heading, honorable appellation, title of honor of a known origin, meaning name of a book, a play, etc., first recorded mid-14th century, the sense of name showing a person's rank, and in English is first attested in 1580s sports championship, since attested from 1913, originally in lawn tennis. So a title to furnish with a title, early 14th century. My friends, clearly there's something very weird going on. Why so many definitions? That would baffle me, moving on to another motion, shall we? Because this one is, I can only with a conclusion that either you are an object and I will put a description of what you are. Okay, so let's play with this one a little bit, shall we? We have this amazing object in the human form. We decided to call it Mr. Frisbees. This is recent new object in our vicinity. I hope you enjoy it. And that's that. Oh, come on, for God's sake. No, let's move on. So, the basics and potential power of an affidavit of truth. So, in the reality we live in, we would be wise to accept that we live in a world that has laws, and you know it, my fingers are up. And these laws exist on paper, and fortunately, some laws exist in our hearts and conscience. Since the dawn of laws of men, there existed a piece of paper that was held above all others. And that piece of paper is called an affidavit, a sworn statement of truth that, if unrebutted, stands as the agreement of the parties, the judgment in commas, and the truth in commas. So please humor me and answer the following in the comments section if you can. But just to see if you guys are paying attention to this amazing podcast. So, the first question is: are you a man or a woman? Are you an artificial entity of the United Kingdom, aka citizen, vessel, person, subject, taxpayer, legal fiction, resident, or individual? Do you belong to the United Kingdom? Should you be coerced into presenting yourself as a public entity? Are you capable of swearing an oath? Are you liable to or for any political corporate rules, statutes? As a man or a woman, do you have to voluntarily elect to submit to give another party jurisdiction over you? Should your use of banknotes or any other public facility when alternatives are generally unavailable tie you into a contract of some sort? Should you be coerced into receiving vaccinations or any other medical treatments and procedures? Are your words your definitions and not for redefining? I will leave you at that. I will post this questions to make it easier in the description of this video, and I will bring you the resolution on the next podcast. And that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoy this as much as I did. I'll see you on the next one.